Hello and welcome to my science tutorials. In today's video, we want to look at quadratic factorization, how to get the factors of a quadratic equation. So without further delay, let's begin. Now, a quadratic equation is an equation of the form as squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So over here we can see that we have a, b, and c. These are known values. We have them as known values. We have values for them, and then the x term is what we don't know. Now, the difference between a quadratic equation and a linear equation is that a linear equation only has one variable, let's say x, and it's not raised to any specific power. So we can have 2x plus maybe 3 outside bracket 4 plus 2x is equal to maybe 18. This is a typical linear equation. This is a linear equation. But for a quadratic equation, it always has the x component, the variable, raised to a power more than 1. So we can have a over here in this instance is raised to the power 2, or we can have, let's say, as cubed plus bs squared plus cx plus d is equal to 0. This is also a quadratic equation. Now, for this particular type of equation, depending on the coefficient of the x term, that determines the number of answers or the root of the equation. In this particular example, because the x term is raised to the power 2, we have 2 answers that will satisfy this equation, and they become the root of the equation. Over here, we expect how many answers? We expect 3 answers for x that will satisfy this particular equation. So this is the format that a quadratic equation takes. Now, there are various ways of solving quadratic equation. You can either factorize them, use the quadratic formula, use the method of completing squares. Okay, so in this video we want to look at factorization, but not just how to factorize. We want to learn how to get the factors before we look at how to solve quadratic equations itself in the next video. So let's start by looking at an example. So we have to factorize xa plus xb plus ya plus yb. So we are only to get the factors over here. So if we look at this expression really well, we realize that we have xa plus xb plus ya plus yb. This is equal to, if we compare the first two terms that we have here, we can see that x is common for them, and then the third and then the last one, we can see that y is common for them. So we can factor these variables out. Now, if we factor s out between the first two expressions over here, if we factor s out, we will have a plus b inside the bracket. Now, plus between this and this, if we factor y out, we will have y outside bracket, then into bracket a plus b. Now, note that we are having a plus b repeating. Now, in this case, the a plus b is what we call the common factors. Okay, it becomes the common factor, so we don't need to write it 2 times. So from here, from the top over here, we write this and this together as one factor, so it becomes x plus y. Then we repeat one of the common factors, that is a plus b. So these two becomes our factors. So this is what we call the factors of this particular equation. These are the factors of this particular equation. Now let's have a real typical example of a quadratic expression and find the factors. So we have x squared plus 7x plus 12, and we have to find the factors of this equation. Now, quadratic equations are often of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, to factor or to find the factors, the first thing we do is that we use the coefficient of the x squared term to multiply the c. So we have a multiplied by c, we get an answer. Now, that answer that we get over here, we look for two numbers that if you multiply them, you get the answer, but if you add or subtract, you get the middle number over here, b. So let's look at that. So the example we have over here is x squared plus 7x plus 12 is this is the expression. So this is equal to, now the first thing we do is the coefficient of x squared term here is 1 multiplied by 12 is 12. So we have 12. You write that somewhere. Now which two numbers will you multiply to get 12? But if you add or subtract them, you get 7. So if you think really well, you realize that 3 and 4 will do that. So if you multiply 3 and 4, you get 12, which is the c term we have over here after we multiplied a and c. But if you add these 3 and 4, you get 7, which is in the middle over here. So this becomes a suitable number. But we have 2 and 5. But if we multiply 2 and 5, even though if we add them, it will give us 7. If we multiply them, it will give us 10, which is not 12. So we will not go for this. This will not be considered as our possible factors. We only go for 3 and 7 because if you multiply them, you get 12, and then if you add them, you get 7. So we are going to use 3 and 4. So how do you write that? You maintain your x squared, then you write the 7x in the form of 3 and 4. So you do that by writing, you can write 3 or 4 first, either way doesn't matter. So I'm going to write, in this example, I'm going to write 4x first. So 4x plus 3x plus 12. Now if you look at this expression and what is on the left hand side, there's no big difference. We have x squared, we have x squared, we have 7x, here we have 4x plus 3x, and if you add them, you get 7x. Then we have the constant 12, and then we have 12 here. So we have done nothing to the equation. We just rearrange the equation in a much more easier way for it to factorize and get our factors. Alright, so from here, the next thing we do is to factor out the common terms between these first two variables that we have over here. So between x squared and then 4x, x is common, so we factor x out. Then we have x plus 4 in the bracket over here, then plus between 3x plus 12, 3 and 12, the factor that is common between them is 3, so we factor it out. Then we have into bracket x plus 4. So if we multiply 3 by x, it will give us 3x, 3 by 4 to give us 12. Now we can see we have x plus 4, which I said is the common factor. So over here we just maintain one of it. So we write x plus 3, and then x plus 4. So x plus 3, x plus 4 becomes our common factors. And that is the solution after we factorize this equation. Now remember, we are not solving quadratic equation, so we don't want to find the value of x. We just want to find how to come up with the factors. That is what this tutorial is about today. Right, so let's have a look at another example. So we have to factorize. Let's factorize x squared minus 2x minus 24. Alright, so we have this expression. Like I said, the first thing we need to do is to multiply the coefficient of the x squared term over here and the constant term, which is c. So we have the coefficient of the x term here is 1. The coefficient of the constant is 24, negative 24. So 1 multiplied by negative 24 will give us negative 24. Okay. Now, which two numbers can we multiply to get negative 24? But if we add or subtract them, we get negative 2 in the middle over here. Alright, so if you think at it very well, 6 and 4 can do this job for us. Now 6 multiplied by 4 will give us 24. But if you add 6 and 4, you are not going to get negative 2. So it means one of them has to be negative. So let's negate the 6. Now negative 6 multiplied by 4 will give us negative 24, which is what we want. And then negative 6 plus 4 will give us negative 2. That is very good. So it means our factors, our potential factors is negative 6 and 4. So we are going to use them. So we still write our x squared. Over here, instead of writing negative 2x, we are going to write negative 6x plus 4x. Then we bring the constant minus 24. Okay, so from here we can go ahead and factor out x. So if I factor out x here, I'll have x outside, then into bracket x minus 6 plus between 4x and negative 24, 4 is common, so I factor out 4, then I have into bracket x minus 6 over here. So I can see my common factors, so I will now bring x plus this 4, and then x minus 6. So these guys becomes my common factors. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at another example. So we have to factorize the expression x squared minus 20x plus 100. As usual, I use the coefficient of the x squared term, which is 1 over here, to multiply the c, that is 100. So I have positive 100. Now, which two numbers can I multiply to get 100? But if I add or I subtract them, I get negative 20. Right, if you look at it very well, those two numbers are going to be 10, 10. So 10 multiplied by 10 will give me 100. But 10 plus 10 will give me a positive 20, not negative 20. But what if I use negative 10 multiplied by negative 10? Negative 10 multiplied by negative 10 will give me positive 100, which is true. And then negative 10 plus negative 10 will give me negative 20. So it means that negative 10 and negative 10 will do the work for me in this case. So I rewrite the expression as x squared minus 10x minus another 10x plus 100. So this is equal to, from here I can factor out my x. So I bring x outside. I have x minus 10 over here. Then minus over here I have between 10x plus 100, 10 is common, so I factor out 10. Then I write into bracket x minus 10. So negative 10 multiplied by x will give me negative 10x. Negative 10 multiplied by negative 10 will give me a positive 100. So from here, I can now rewrite my expression as x minus 10, which is this x minus this 10. And then I maintain one of the common factors, which is x minus 10. Now, for this particular example, you can see that we have x minus 10 occurring twice. So we can rewrite this as x minus 10 all squared. And this becomes our factors for factorizing this expression. Alright, let's look at one final example. So we have to factorize the expression x squared minus 49. Okay, so we have x squared minus 49. Now, mind you, if you look at this, we said that quadratic equation is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, if you compare this with this equation that we have over here, you realize that we don't have an x term over here. If that happens, if you have an expression where you don't have an x term, it means the coefficient is 0. So 0 multiplied by x will give you 0, and that is how come it has not been written. So this whole expression can be rewritten as x squared plus 0x minus 49. Okay, so from here I can now go ahead and do my usual. So the coefficient of x squared term here is 1 again. So I use that 1 to multiply negative 49. I get negative 49. So which two numbers will I multiply to get 49? Negative 49. But if I add or subtract them, I get 0. So it happens that 7 will do the job for us. So if I multiply negative 7 and positive 7, I get negative 49. But if I add them, I get 0. So I'm going to use that. So I have x squared. Then I write minus 7x plus 7x minus 49. So the minus 7x plus 7x will give us the 0 over here. So we've not done anything to the equation. So now that I have it in this form, I can factor out my x. So if I factor x out here, I have x minus 7 here plus, between this and this, 7 is common, so I factor out 7, then into bracket x minus 7. So I can have here x and then positive 7, so that becomes x plus 7. Then I have x minus 7 here, so x minus 7 over here as my final expression. So after factorizing this equation, these are the factors that you get as the true root for this particular expression. So thank you so much for watching. This is how we find the factors of a quadratic equation. Now that we know how to find the factors, we will proceed with the next tutorial and we'll look at how to solve quadratic equations themselves, how we use this knowledge that we've obtained here to obtain the factors and go ahead and find the value of x in a particular quadratic equation where we'll be using the method of factorization. So thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.